Greetings, everyone. Sue Paulson, your Magnificence mentor here, and we're back with another episode of the Healing Call of Cancer. Now, usually in the past 14 episodes, I've talked primarily about those of you who have had a cancer diagnosis and have been working through. So you've experienced that journey as I have. Today, I want to focus a little bit on supporters. So if you have a friend, a loved one, someone in your life who has been smacked with a cancer diagnosis, and you're in the position of supporter, maybe you're a caregiver for them, whatever role it is that you're about to take on, then this information is for you. I suspect, now I've been on both sides of the fence. So in the past year, I lost my beloved sister who had suffered in battling cancer for over 5 years. It was a particularly virulent form, and she died just after her 50th birthday. So I'm intimately acquainted with what it's like to be in that supporter role, in addition to having been a cancer survivor. So I wanted to talk about this today because there seems to be, so there's lots of pop culture talk about, what did you do to bring this into your life? And as if you in living your life are doing something wrong. There's plenty of blame, guilt, shame, etc. attached to getting a cancer diagnosis for the sufferer. I lived that, I felt that, I thought, what kind of person am I that would somehow allow this cancer to invade my body? And I went through the whole litany of, should I have eaten better, exercised more, done certain things, not done certain things, on and on and on and on, ad nauseum, to the point where it just kept me in a tailspin for a great period of time. So it doesn't help if a supporter comes at the cancer sufferer with that same idea. Well, oh, you should have quit smoking, or you shouldn't have done this, you shouldn't have done that, or on and on and on, because it's nothing new and nothing the cancer sufferer hasn't already thought about. So if your goal, now I get it, you hear a loved one get that kind of a diagnosis and it scares you out of your shorts. I get that. I felt that same terror on behalf of my sister. And I thought, oh no, how come she's got to go through this now? I already went through this. Isn't that enough? And it just broke my heart to find out what the diagnosis is all about and then watch her suffering. And of course, as her sister and as a loving supporter, I wanted to do everything in my power. And I thought, well, I learned a bunch of stuff as I was going through cancer. I can share that with her. I can teach her what she needs to know. I'm a fixer, all right? I admit it. That if something seems broken, I want to do everything I possibly can to fix it. The trouble was, it was not mine to fix. My sister's journey and her life was not mine to fix. And who's to say that anything was so-called broken in the first place? So I found myself, after going through the usual, how can I control this? How can I make this easier? How can I whatever? I found myself backing off and saying, look it, this is her journey. And I will be there to support her in the way that she feels she needs, not the way that I feel I need. Because let's face it, we want to feel better. We want to feel more comfortable. We don't want to feel helpless. We don't want to feel as if there's absolutely nothing we can do. Even if there's really nothing that we can see to do, we don't want to feel that way. But setting our own feelings aside, the most important person at this moment is the cancer sufferer, is the one going through that journey. So what is it that this person is going to need? Now, they may not even know, because they haven't been in this boat either. So a certain amount of it is this dialoguing, this talking about it. What do you need? How can I help you? If I did this, would that help you in your journey? Would that make you feel better? And of course, as the supporter, you need to know quite well what you're capable of offering and what you're willing to offer and what you're not. Because not everybody can offer this emotional support if that's not where they're coming from. But maybe they have financial resources that could weigh in. And believe me, there are lots of things that come up in relation to costs that most people don't even understand or expect. So maybe you have extra money, you can say, here, put this in the gas tank. If you've ever parked at a hospital, you know how expensive parking is. Well, do what you can in the way that's going to be helpful. And don't, and of course, if you're dealing with someone who's fiercely independent, which I was, and I wasn't a very good receiver, so it was hard for me to even receive, never mind to ask. So you may find that you're up against a loved one who just, no, I'm fine, it's okay, it's okay, it's okay. Well, to a point, you want to honor that they're working this through and they're maybe not ready for your support. Well, what can you do in the meantime? You can quietly envision them healed. You can quietly send them healing energy. You can say prayers. You can put their names on prayer lists. There's lots of things you can do behind the scenes that doesn't require the involvement of your loved one, that will help you feel as if you're doing something until you actually can physically get in there and do whatever. Now, of course, I had all kinds of words of advice and opinions, and because I had been successful in my journey through and came out the other side, and I'm still here on planet Earth, so I must have done something that worked. And I thought, oh, I can help my sister. But I was shy to ask. I was shy to say, well, do you want me to tell you about my experience? Do you want me to? I didn't know how to even approach the subject. So mostly I held back. And in retrospect, I'm glad I did, because lots of times a barrage of unwanted opinions and advice only stirs the pot and causes more anxiety and causes more frustration and fear on the part of the sufferer than what they had before. So you don't want to add to the stress level that's already there. So I backed off and I waited for her to ask me. Well, I mostly waited a long time because she didn't ask. And there was a part of me that was hurt by that, and a part of me that was frustrated because I thought I knew what could help her. Well, as it turns out, you learn an awful lot about yourself when you're in the supportive role, because it tugs and pulls at all your own insecurities and your own desires to do something or be there for them or whatever. So it was a huge learning for me to be okay with whatever transpired in the situation. And as things turned out, I just found myself being there whenever I could. Now, there was a distance challenge because I live in Canada and she lived in California. So, but when our parents needed extra help and she was busy dealing with her cancer, trying to raise her son, dealing with her own business, all these things, she had so much on her plate. And she wanted to go away. She wanted some time to go to her beloved Ireland, and it was her dream trip. And I thought, if I can make that happen, if I can kind of keep the home fires burning while she does that, then I'll have contributed. And so I got a plane ticket. I weighed in and went for a visit and did what needed to be done on the ground while she was able to go with her friends and have this much desired trip. And then in the final days of her life, as she was approaching her 50th birthday, I was determined that I was going to be there close around her birthday if I couldn't be there exactly on her birthday. And it was such, I think, a healing time for both of us, because even though she had full-time caregivers at that point who were tending her at home, there were little things I could do. I could run to the store and buy watermelon and chop it up really tiny for her so that she could get the taste of it and the juices running into her system, and just choose something that was easy for her. It was just a little bit, but it was something. And the Olympics happened to be on at that time. And so I was able to sit with her and we watched the show jumping. She was a talented equestrian at one point in her career. And so she knew lots of these riders who were competing. So it was fun to hear her stories about this person and that person and how well they'd done, and so how she'd met them and so on. Well, she said to me at one point, she said, "You have no idea how much I appreciate that you would sit here with me and watch the show jumping, because it means a lot to me, and it has meant a lot to me to have you here to share it." And I thought, wow, who knew that such a simple act of just watching TV, and we watched these crazy soap opera type shows that were on there, and whatever else there happened to be. We shared some laughs. I provided whatever comfort I could, but mostly the important thing was that I was there. I was there with her. So the role of supporter is such a vital role, an important role. The thing is, you don't know what form that's going to take. So it's really important to be open to whatever comes down. And I mean, I was so blessed with so many supporters. Some gave me rides when I couldn't drive. Some just would drop food off at the door and they wouldn't even come in. They just send me a text and say, "There's food on your doorstep," for which I was really grateful, because then I didn't have to think about meal prep. Some, I was on umpteen dozen prayer circles throughout the continent, and people who just sat quietly with me when I was having a tough day. And they didn't stay long because they could see that I was struggling, but regardless of the shape I was in, they were there for me. And one dear friend sent a prayer shawl that had been crocheted by a member of the church. And it was in this bright color, and I was cold lots of the time going through treatment. And so this was just something snuggly to envelop myself. So there's lots of ways that we can contribute, some more visible and some way less visible, but your contribution is important. Just make sure that as it hits you, and you're full front to the enormity of your own feelings or your own sense of inadequacy or whatever it is, then realize that maybe it's time for you to get some support too, especially if you're the main caregiver. I just, my heart went out to my partner at the time who struggled mightily, not only with helping me, but struggling with the work he was trying to do. And I could see that he needed somebody in his corner, just like I needed people in my corner. And so I reached out to a couple of people I knew who had been in the caregiver role and experienced it firsthand. So they were able to provide him with some perspective and I think some comfort as a result of that. It's all too easy for the caregiver to think, no, I don't need anything. But you can't grind yourself into the ground in this whole adventure that does not serve either one of you, for you to self-sacrifice to the point where you can't function anymore. That's not going to do anyone any good. So if you need somebody to talk to and you need some time away, you need a break, then that's the time to allow the other supporters to weigh in and say, we'll take over. You go do what you need to do. If you need a day off, the afternoon, the weekend, whatever, you go do what will enrich you and nourish you and help you fill your cup back up. It takes a whole community to help someone who is going through a cancer diagnosis. So I really wanted to put that out there in this episode today, because with the stats on how many people are experiencing cancer, the likelihood of you being on one side or the other, or even both, is pretty high. So even though there's really nothing much you can do to prepare for the experience, because it will be new to you and it will hit you in different ways, there are some things and some information that you can access ahead of time so that at least you step in a little easier, so that it's not quite so hard or not quite such a shock when that happens. So be well, my magnificent ones. And if you're in a caregiver role, a supporter role, bless you. Your help and support is so needed. Those of us who have gone through cancer couldn't have done what we did without you. So thank you. Until next week, have a great week.